at the end of every session when we need to go for a meal. And then we will do it in tables, starting from the back, working our way to the front, if that's okay. So that we are not all out in the courtyard at the same time in the foyer, just for us to be careful about observing those protocols. Well, we want to tell you about today. Today is an exciting day. What do we have in store, Dr. King?
Oh, a power pack for today. We're going to start out with the blue economy in regional economic communities, and of course, after. But before that, we're looking to have an opening remark. It's going to be focusing a lot more, the academia aspect of it, mixed with, of course, the private sector. And so we will have Professor Olusola Oyewole, the Secretary General of Association of African Universities, to give us the opening remarks. And then with the blue economy, we'll move through the panel, and I'm going to let him touch on what's happening next.
So the second session will really focus on the legal, regulatory, and policy frameworks. We're thinking innovation and inventions. Yesterday we talked about manufacturing, so this dovetails on that topic, but looking more on what sort of environment do we need to create legally and otherwise, standards and so forth, that will enable us to thrive in terms of innovation on the continent.
That cannot happen unless you and I get to know who we are. The social solidarity and peace in regional economic communities, and of course AfCFTA, is so important. We did have, especially one of our panelists yesterday was really hammering on that. So we're going to have an exciting group come in and tell us about social solidarity and peace.
This continent thrives on movement. So if we are going to talk about exchanging goods like we heard yesterday, we're going to need a network of transport. So we're going to talk about how we move goods from one place to the next. So our last session today, we'll talk about infrastructure and transportation and all forms of transportation for that matter. So looking forward to that last session. So that's our day today. I hope you're excited about what we're talking about. And so without further ado, we want to introduce our first moderator to come up, Mr. Dio, who will lead us in this session. Thank you, Mr. Dio. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sam Ndoga and Dr. King, Dr. Margaret King. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. I'll be moderating the session on blue economy in the REX and after, how to make it work sustainably for Africa. On my panel, I have a couple of distinguished guests, speakers, and eminent personalities who are going to help us to throw light on the blue economy and how we are going to build it, how we are building it, what are the challenges we are facing, what are the recommendations and solutions that we can take away and we can copy across Africa in order to be able to build bottom-up a sustainable blue economy for Africa. It is very important that those who are in this room understand the concept of the blue economy. It is also very imperative that we understand that all the conversations we are having today ties in not only with the blue economy, but it also pays credence to what we discussed yesterday in the area of agriculture and manufacturing. Goodness me, it is not even by accident that a couple of the people I'm seeing in the room are wearing all blue, like it is a blue party or a blue occasion. So I want you to give yourself a round of applause for that. Yes, so without much ado, I am going to introduce the panelists, and I'm going to give an opportunity to the audience to be able to field out questions to them. Some of the members of the panelists are virtually present. I believe some are in this room as well. I have on the panel Ms. Nicole Esperon, who is the CEO of ProVisitor.com. Nicole is a seasoned UK lawyer who is specialized in talent mobility across Africa. She will be giving us insight as to how talent mobility will help us build the blue economy. I also have Mrs. Miriam Lawani. She is the CEO of Green Hill Recycling. And we all know our seas. We have not started tapping into some of the sectors in the blue economy. And for us to be able to do it sustainably, we will be bringing a recycling expert who will be helping us to delve into how we can ensure that when we build, and as we build, we put in all the necessary apparatus and all the necessary processes to ensure that we can pass it on to generations right now. We can pass it on to generations after us sustainably, not so much that we would overexploit them, not so much that we will destroy some of the species and assets that God has given us, but that we will do the exploitation in a way to create wealth and create it transgenerationally. I also will be inviting virtually Dr. Almona Chinyere, who is the DG of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. She is representing the President of Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Dr. Toki Mabogunje. I will always also be fielding questions to Ambassador Ayola Olukani, who is the DG of NASIMA, that's Nigerian National Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture. He is a seasoned career diplomat with vast experience in several areas of policy across the world. He will be bringing his rich experience into the blue economy to be able to throw light into it and ensure that we are coping right and we are doing the right thing as we build. For the blue economy, so for those who are not fully initiated into the blue economy, it is basically how do we exploit our water resources. It is very, very important that we take some salient points from this summit. Apart from trying to find African solutions, there are existing solutions which might not work in Africa. And it is because of this that we have bring together this panelist so that she can throw light onto our discussion and our conversation. Please, I want to know if our panelists are ready, and I want to give them one or two opportunities to introduce themselves, those of them who are here virtually. We will be speaking on four main topics on this. The first one is trade facilitation and the blue economy. I'll be feeding questions across the panel. The human capacity development angle to it, raising an awareness and forming formidable ties and partnerships in the blue economy. Please do let me know if our panelists who are virtually present are ready to go. Okay. Please let me know those of them who are virtually present so that I can start communicating with them. Please, our panelists on Zoom, Please do rename yourself so that the audience and the summit could be able to relate to you and identify you if they have questions that they want to direct across to you individually. Good morning.
I'm happy. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning, Nicole. How are you?
Good morning. I'm not sure if you can hear me, Dio.
Good morning, I can hear you. You're welcome to APSS, African Private Sector
My name is Nicole Esperon. As Dio has said, I am a UK qualified lawyer. I've also got rights of audience in Seychelles, which is where I'm from. A big blue economy center, as many of you will know. I have many years experience, over decades experience in talent mobility, which is where my career gravitated towards, my legal career gravitated towards. And I've worked with many leading organizations, government, public sector, and private sector in implementing policies and practices that harness the power of talent mobility. And make no mistake, it is a power that Africa can harness to really drive economic and social value from free movement of people. And that is what I'll be largely focusing on today, that aspect of it. Lovely to be here with you.
Thank you, Nicole. I believe I can see Sami Tuita. He is the e-commerce regional customer manager for Sub-Saharan Africa. Sami, over to you.
Thank you very much, Adeayo. My name is Sami Deuter, as indicated. Thank you very much for this particular opportunity. It's great to be a part of this really important conversation. I really like the punch in terms of awakening the giant, because I mean, Africa as a continent is definitely a sleeping giant that, like my co-panelist has mentioned, it's huge power to harness. So I represent DHL Express, which is part of a bigger group, which is under Deutsche Post as well. So my main agenda here is basically from a logistics perspective, is in terms of ensuring that we connect people and improve lives. And this is basically just from an economical perspective, from an angle where people can actually trade from virtually any point of the world, and this is basically what I'm going to be able to focus on as we go on during the panel discussion as well. So thank you very much. Over to you, Dio.
Thank you, Sami. Thank you so much for a concise introduction. I believe there are other panels. We would love some other panelists to introduce themselves.
Hi, Dio. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Miriam Lawani. I am the founder and CEO of Green Hill Recycling. It's a beautiful opportunity to be here to explore this topic today. We are mainly focused at Green Hill Recycling. We're mainly focused on how we can address poverty, unemployment, and climate change challenges through recycling. And my focus today would be around how we sustainably harness the richness in our oceans, bearing in mind that we need to leave it for future generations. So and then the impact of our activities as humans on the water, the seas, and the resulting effects when it comes to food security and coastal regions and the like. So that's what I will be focusing on today. Thank you for the opportunity to be here and to amplify our voices, even as young people, around this topic. Thank you. Over to you, Dayo.
Thank you very much, Miriam Lawani. Your perspective on sustainability would greatly enhance this conversation. I believe we still have some other speakers virtually. Okay, thank you very much. So we will be delving into this topic quickly, and as we go along, I'm going to be dropping snippets and then throwing questions at our panelists. Some of the panelists will join us as we go along. I would implore you to let me know once they join so that they can quickly introduce themselves to the audience, and then we can field questions across to them. So greatly, essentially, the blue economy touches every of our lives, from the farm gates, the food we eat, to the clothes we wear. There is nothing in this room that has not passed through the blue economy to get to us. It is that simple. Okay, so I will bring it home. The food we eat, we take it through the road. Some of the things we imported that landed on our table today, this morning, were brought to us one way or the other through the blue economy. Now, it cuts across every facet of our life, from fisheries to seafaring to ocean management to port administration to hydrography to carbon capture and storage and so many other things. Now, it is imperative that we create awareness as Africans that these assets are there waiting for us to tap into and to harness. Without that cautious mindset thing that was mentioned this morning, we will be leaving a very key part of our asset and resources untapped. And you know, nature abhors vacuum. So definitely, if we don't tap into it, somebody else will. And that's exactly what is happening across Africa. So I'm going to be delving a little into how we create awareness for the blue ocean economy. And I'm also going to be tapping into the human capacity development for this. And I'm also going to be tying this as well into the sustainability so that as we start it, we know the end game in mind. With that, I'll be feeding questions to Mr. Sami, Twitter. I would like to know the technology play in the blue ocean economy and what your organizations are facing as challenge and what solutions are readily available, especially with our idea, our vision to ensure that we facilitate trade across boundaries in Africa. Over to you, Sami.
That's a really good question in terms of what technology is actually doing and what part it's playing as far as this particular conversation is concerned. I think the very best place to start without even being biased is basically when we think about globalization, there's a lot of change. The world has actually been made into this really small sort of area as far as the playing field is concerned, as far as trade is concerned. And from a technological perspective, I'd say where we're coming in is that we're really, really leveraging on e-commerce as far as a virtual sort of like road in terms of how we can trade at this point. So e-commerce as a platform has seen a lot of changes where a country like Ghana or Nigeria can trade with a country like Uganda, because the whole globalization and the ICT bit of it has really made it very easy for people to actually just get online and look through the kind of products, and we do have quite a lot of products to trade, from fashion and apparel, from the food that we have, like you mentioned earlier. So basically, I'd say technology has played a major part as far as this particular conversation is concerned, and I think it's not a futuristic kind of thinking. It's basically a now. It's a present. So I'd say as DHL, we've really done a tremendous job in terms of ensuring that we are up with the times, and our research and development team does a very good job in terms of ensuring that we're in line with the direction that the world is going, and as a continent as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sammy. I want to quickly add to that question. The technology is an enabler, quite all right. We all know that. But at the behind the scenes, there's a big hub, a wheel of logistics turning to make the fulfillment of that technology possible. I would like you to throw some light into challenges that might be faced right now, and how you, as a custodian, as a gatekeeper, is ensuring that that trade facilitation is happening. You mentioned trading between Ghana and Kenya, or across border. So behind the scenes, despite the enablement, I mean, it will take you maybe 6 weeks to build a website or an e-commerce platform. But after that, then what? What are the logistics implications behind it, especially in the blue economy, and as it affects trade facilitation for Africa?
Thank you. So yeah, speaking of the challenges, and this is basically now from a barrier perspective. One of the things that would be a major barrier is in terms of what we've seen from a logistics perspective is the regulations in country. We have seen that from basically the different cross-border international kind of trade that we've seen in the world is it's not clearly defined in terms of what tariff to apply, what attracts duties, what doesn't attract duties. So generally, I'd say as far as trade facilitation is concerned, and from a logistics perspective, one of the things that continues to be a very major challenge and a stumbling block is, as far as facilitating that trade is concerned, is the gateways in the respective countries. We're not yet where we need to be as far as the maturity, as far as the charges are concerned, as far as duties are concerned, as far as VATs are concerned. So I'd say by far one of the biggest challenges in terms of that customs regulation. Another challenge that comes into mind at this point is in terms of the cost of doing business, in terms of that, like the logistics bit of it. So as DHL, we're privileged to have a number of players as far as the entire supply chain is concerned. So sometimes one of the challenges is, so you want to transport, say for example, a product from, say specifically maybe like Uganda or Tanzania, and perhaps you don't have the entire threshold or the bulk that you would want to get. So it's sort of like becomes a barrier as far as trade is concerned, because maybe you're not able to fill a 20-foot or 40-foot container. So the cost also becomes a bit of a challenge as far as that logistics is concerned. And then also the question of are you being motivated from a rational perspective or an emotional perspective? So it's a question of, is it speed that's driving you, or is it a cost factor that's driving you? So I think finding a balance in between also continues to be a bit of a challenge as well. So I'd say those are the top sort of top three that we would I would think off the top of my head as well from a DHL perspective. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sammy. He said that for some of the challenges they face is the volume. How do you feel a 20-foot container with banana heading to you from Ghana to Nigeria? So in that aspect, technology can play a very good role. where you can aggregate all the resources coming out of Ghana and put them into the container and send them down. So that considerably reduced the cost that each small-scale business is going to incur, because they are being aggregated into a single volume container to be able to send to that. And I hope we will be able to work on that and make that available as one of the solutions to the continent that we can fly with. I want to quickly delve into the human capital aspect. I want to, Africa, a bit of a background is there's so many things being said about African youth and the resources and potentials. But at the same time, I want to posit an alternative idea that we do have the talent. They might not necessarily be in Africa, but they are outside Africa, they are diaspora. And we need to start looking at how we can attract those talents and bring them in, create the enabling environment. To this, I'm going to be fielding questions to Nicole and what she is working on and how this is going to enable us to fill round holes with round pegs and ensure that we have passionate, qualified, and seasoned talent coming into Africa. Nicole. Sorry, Nicole, you're not audible. We can't hear you.
Oh, beg your pardon. I was muted. Thank you, Dio. Sorry. I was just saying, the APSS chairman, Mr. J. Wendell Addy, said something extremely profound yesterday, which relates to this. He says we need to map our natural resources to make wealth happen in Africa. I will extend that. I will say we need to map our human resources equally, because until we measure what we have, we can't improve it. And the first step is to actually understand what skills we do have. There is a huge conversation around lack of skills in Africa. And I think, that the evidence proves it's not so much a lack of skills, but a fragmentation of skills across Africa that is causing the hardest problems, the largest problems. And as you rightly say, there is a huge bank of talent very much aligned to the African narrative, very much aligned, diaspora, and those aligned to Africa's development that we can tap into once we understand what those skills are, once we understand where they can be used. Now, when I talk of skills, we need to raise the visibility of skills, not roles, not jobs, but skills. And that is where a lot of the challenges happen. Even not just in Africa, all over the world, the focus is often on roles, the focus is often on jobs, but we need to unearth what it is that our human capital can actually do, where they're based, what they can do. So you've got a lot of people with huge experience across that can be very useful in the blue economy that have never really been certified. So how does Africa access those skills? Unless you know people locally to you who know that this person is particularly good at welding, or this person is particularly good at, soil, understanding the PhD of soil or whatever. You can't really access them. So it's raising the visibility of those skills. And I think the opportunity to do that is there. The technology to do that is there. We just need to mobilize the private sector. And there's a lot of things that we can put into place to do that, to motivate them. I know that there's a conversation later on intellectual property. That is a big one. There's a lot that they can do. There's a lot of money to be put into it that the private sector like myself is looking to harness talent mobility to be able to drive some of these activities. But it needs protection. There's a lot of risk involved in doing that. Somebody else, to enable that fragmentation to be eliminated, somebody needs to be able to capture the skills. But if everybody's doing the same thing, somebody comes along and says, I'll do that as well. We're working particularly to accelerate skills visibility in the infrastructure space in order to accelerate infrastructure. So what protections can it offer me? Because the more critical mass I can raise in terms what skills are available in that sector, the more to influence things like social protections, to influence things like the legislation and the regulations that are necessary to enable that talent mobility. But it needs to provide some kind of protection for the entrepreneurs as well. Also because I think there are different types of employment sort of structures that can be put into place. Somebody mentioned it earlier. It's not just about employment, it's not just about jobs. The AfCFTA offers the opportunity for people to take their skills into their own hands and look for those opportunities around Africa. They don't have anymore to just look for opportunities that are local to them, but it needs to raise the visibility of those opportunities. Technology has the opportunity to expose those opportunities and equally expose the skills that can match them. This is what we're working on at ProVisitor as well. What skills are necessary to accelerate infrastructure development, for example, in my sector? What opportunities are needed for that? It's both sides. The people developing the technology, the infrastructure need the skills. People need the work. How do you connect them? The technology is there. It's about enabling it to raise that visibility for both sides. Now, there's a lot of sort of obviously, immigration issues, tax issues, mobility issues that need to be taken care of. And experts that can do that, like myself, who have the background, who are enabled to do that, can help with that. So it's about partnering with sector experts who can actually help Africa move this agenda forward. But it needs real visibility of how. I mean, I've been, I'm ashamed to say, I've been knocking on doors for months for people to say, look, I have these skills, I have this technology, I have this ability to accelerate, and I've not had a lot of people who you'd expect to answer back haven't. So it's a question, there's a lot of rhetoric about, yes, we want to partner with the private sector, but in reality, it's not really happening as well. So we need to understand from a private sector perspective, how do we get these technologies into the hands of Africa? How do we enable our expertise to be used, to be visible, and therefore be used to harness things like talent mobility, capital, etc. How we want to be able to create new categories of work. If you have skills in welding, underwater welding in the blue economy, you can work in many sectors. You can work in, you can work in the oil and gas sector. You can work to build ports. You can work in the water sanitation. This is your skill. You have welding, underwater welding experience.
Nicole,
so how can we?
Before you go further, I would like you to.
Now it's no longer looking for a job as an underwater welder.
Nicole.
It's looking for where is the work available, where my skills can be used. And it could be for 3 months with a port operator. It could be for 6 months over there with,
Nicole, I would like you to dwell on a particular aspect of it quickly before you skip that. Where does the diaspora come into this? Because as we are right now, we are streaming live on AAU TV channel, and we have Africans in diaspora listening on to us. You have mentioned and you have touched on it, but I would like you to tell us, how do they come into this fit? Because as you might all be aware, there are some of them who are looking for the green light from Africa, the green light from those of us who are on ground right now, to be able to make that decision to say, I'm coming back home. And some of them who have, they have their fingers burnt. They need reassurances. What is their place in the whole of this mix? I want you to quickly touch on that in 30 seconds.
Do they need to come home? Because there is, as we said, there is so much work that is available on temporary assignment basis. Some of these people have, families, they have people at schools, they have sort of structures that they can't just easily break off and move back. But that doesn't mean we can't access their skills. but we need to have a relocation environment, which is a $250 billion industry, by the way, the relocation industry that Africa barely has a share in. It's less than 1% we have a share in. So, you know, it's about providing the enabling environment for them to come and provide their skills without necessarily having to move over. And it's the same thing, exposing those opportunities to them. Many are ready. I've spoken to many organizations over here in London where they are ready to provide their skills. So it's as I said, it's looking for opportunities beyond just moving over, in short.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Nicole. We will come back to you. For the blue economy, there are so many big parts, small parts, all of the parts working together concurrently to be able to move it into the next level. We have port shipping, logistics, fulfillment, infrastructure, fisheries, marine engineering, ship development, and building. But there is there's a part of it which is often overlooked, and that is the sustainability aspect. We have the fisheries industry, we have the natural assets that God has given us. I mean, 38 of the 55 African nations are all coastal in nature, and each and every one of us benefit from that industry. But it is important that as we are discussing the blue economy, we touch on the aspect of sustainability. For this, I'm going to be bringing Mariam Lawani into the picture so that she can share with us how we can sustainably harness these resources and prevent these resources from dwindling out and dying off on us. Essentially, she will be talking on sustainability in the blue economy and recycling, but more importantly, she will be delving into some of those issues that we rarely mention on how this, how our contribution is positively impacting our assets, especially in the coastal areas, and how we can develop policies and procedures on how to harness this resource. Mariam Lawani.
Thank you, Dayo. Can you hear me well?
Yes,
Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, it's very important. I like the fact that you said there is a teeny tiny bit that is often, you know, neglected or doesn't take the limelight, which is waste management, right? I'm sure we all know that our lifestyles as humans directly or indirectly affect the blue economy. The way we burn fossil fuels and the things that we do on land have a direct impact on the blue economy, as well as the, you know, the life forms that are in there. There are certain communities or even, you know, larger communities that depend on the resources from the coastal regions or from the oceans. And when we have a lot of, when we engage in certain habits that increase the greenhouse gases and invariably increase the temperatures of our waters, there is an impact to those communities, right? So at Green Hill Recycling, we focus on how we can capture waste, especially recyclable waste, and particularly plastics, right? Because, I mean, globally now, plastics have become an issue, almost a crisis. And so we focus mainly on how can we capture these resources, because we don't see them as waste, we actually see them as resources, from getting into our oceans, right? And having negative impacts on our oceans. So that is what we do. How do we create awareness? How do we tell more people? How do we let people know that their activities on land impact on the oceans? How do we let people know that if they don't pay attention and that they're not very deliberate in their actions, their children and their children's children will probably not have, you know, an earth, as it were, to live in. So we focus on how we can create awareness around waste management, how we can prevent these wastes from getting into our oceans, from destroying our life forms, from, making fish and other aquatic animals go into extinction, from preventing their shells, for example, from absorbing carbon dioxide and, destroying their forms. All of these things, right from awareness creation to recovery of these materials and turning them into better use, is what we focus on in Green Here Recycling. Thank you. I'm not sure if I've,
Thank you very
answered
much,
your question
Miriam.
properly.
I would want to take a break to apologize and to also inform you that one of our panelists is actually in here. So I'll be calling on Stefan Abbas Mezani, I don't know if I pronounce it properly, to come step onto the podium and do a brief introduction, and then we will take it on from there. Mr. Stefan Abbas. Thank you. Before we go on, I'll be calling on Mr. Bensa. He has a short announcement to make.
Good morning. Bensa, I'm heading communications and trying to coordinate media for APSS. Thank you for all those who have been able to make it. I'm trying to get some of you to volunteer yourselves for a 15-minute interview during lunch. It depends on whether you can substitute your hunger for an interview. That one depends on you. If you can work that one out for me, I'll be very happy. Just need you for 15 minutes whilst lunch is being served. I'm sure there's enough food for everybody, but we want to try and amplify the conversation on APSS as much as possible. So we want to make sure that our ABLE team at Association of African Universities TV doing the live streaming are able to also continue to carry the messaging of APSS. We cannot do this adequately without media. So we'll have you volunteer. Anyone who's ready to do that would be happy to do that. Otherwise, we will volunteer one of you to make sure that we get what we want. So it depends on you. Or maybe it could be you as well. It depends. So the bottom line is, once we know when lunch is going to be served, then we can have that 15-minute interview for Agenda 2063 TV show, which is a weekly show that runs on AAU TV, which we try to host for the continent. Okay, so that's my announcement. If any of you are interested, just let me know. I'm on the platform, the APSS Series 2, so you can just DM me to make things easier. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bensa. You have somebody who is volunteering already on the podium. Thank you, Mr. Stephen Abbas. It's nice to have you. I'm sorry I didn't introduce you earlier. I would like you to quickly do a brief introduction of yourself, and then we'll continue with our conversation. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Stefan Abbas Mizan, and I'm fortunate to be the second vice president of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce. I'm an entrepreneur in the real estate sector for the past 22 years. So basically, that's what I do.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Stefan Abbas. It's nice to have you here, and we'll be going quickly to the area that touches and borders on what you're doing in the blue economy. Part of the blue economy, like I said, the blue economy is a big, big wheel that drives and grinds and moves things forward. In the blue economy, I cannot overemphasize the impact of ecotourism in Africa. I bring it home when I point an example in Ghana that we have. Mr. Bediako was here yesterday. He's doing very, very good work in the real estate space. But we also have a money spinner in the ecotourism area of the blue economy. It is such that in that space, we have African in diaspora who want to come home and have a feel of our weather. There are so many of us that enjoy the wonderful bliss that Mother Nature has blessed us with, that we forgot how wonderful it is, how exploitable and explorable it is. And so, because we leave money on the table, we don't understand until the likes of Airbnb woke us up and make us to understand that your house can become an hotel. You can earn in dollars. You can learn hospitality. You can add so many services. But fortune has smiled on us once again through COVID-19. Now is the time for us to build our own Airbnb. And I believe someone in this room or someone listening to me will be able to build that. But before we can build that, we need to attract. We need water parks. We need seaside hotels. We need amusement parks. We need real estate at the coastal area that will showcase what we have, that would bring our families, our brothers from diaspora into Africa and make them understand that that dollar, that foreign direct investment does not have to come from institutional investors. It can come in form of $500, $200 that you spend in a week in Ghana, in Lagos, in Accra, in the Gambia, and the different facets in Rwanda, name it. So we need to start talking about that. And that's what I'm going to pose to you, Mr. Stefan Abbas, that you are a real estate developer. You are a mogul in that area. The blue economy is reaching out, and we are asking, what are the challenges that you foresee, and what are your recommendations and solutions that you can provide in this area? Because the money is there on the table. We just need to be innovative about how we rein it in and make it come to us. Mr. Stefan.
Thank you very much, and I think this is an excellent question. And I would like to speak to it in line with the theme of this gathering. As you mentioned already, there are about 35 countries or 34 countries in Africa alone that are along the coast. And we have a lot of our brothers and sisters who are in the diaspora who would want to come home and invest. That's why we're talking about awakening the African giant. And it's not, we are not waiting for anybody to do it but Africans as well. So then we have to keep asking ourselves, what is the reason why and what is hindering us as Africans from coming home to spend that much money if there are about 34 countries along the coast? The coastal properties are prime in the developed nations. So it does not change where the location of the sea is. It's also a prime location. So what is the reason why somebody in America, somebody in Europe would buy a coastal property for so much, and our brother or our sister who has equal amount of money would not want to come home to buy same? So first of all, as Africans, we need to look at what are the hindrances that prevent us from awakening the giant that is already in us. I think that some of the panelists that spoke yesterday already spoke about the opportunities that there are. But what are the challenges that we have as giants of Africa? Because we cannot do it, we cannot wait for anybody to do it but ourselves. So first of all, as nations of Africa, we need to look first at our challenges. Then we can see that, okay, once we can surmount those challenges, then we are moving forward. So the challenges are the first and most important thing. I think that, like the lady spoke, in terms of the technology, in terms of the know-how, the knowledge, as Africans in the diaspora and even at home, we do have it. Let us pay tribute to Dr. Thomas Mensah. He innovated something that today we are using all over the world, and not just in Ghana, all over the world. It means that there are people of us in the diaspora who can do greater and much better things. So first of all, we need to look at the challenges and surmount those challenges. Apart from that, apart from the real estate along along the coastal lines of Africa. Now we also need to look at transportation. Why has it become? Yesterday somebody was mentioning that there was the sugar in either Soweto or Swaziland, and it is more expensive to ship it to Ghana for a company like Farmanova, which does pharmaceutical, which is into pharmaceutical, to produce syrups for our kids. Why should Farmanova import sugar from China or Cuba? Because it's less cheaper. So as Africans, to outworking the giant, we also need to look at something like that. So logistics on this blue economy, on these seas, is also very important. Now we go further to even the natural resources in the blue economy. Why is it that we don't have giant shipping and fishing companies in Africa? And rather we have this Chinese doing petroleum and all these challenges that we face. So as Africans, to awaken the giant, and I like to speak in line with the topic, the theme, what are the challenges that is hindering us from being able to do the things that we are doing? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for laying the foundation. Be rest assured and be aware that as you lay down these challenges bare, we are also going to be tasking you with coming up with credible solutions which we can introduce and implement tomorrow, starting with tomorrow. So I will be coming back to ask you on some of the things that you will be doing with the business organization that you belong to, GNCC, and how you as a private sector leader will be harnessing the resources that is available, that is already here. We've found one of our panelists has spoken to talent mobility. If we need experts, Africa is not lacking. We have in our midst one of the foremost African sons who is not only an innovator, he created something that we are all using worldwide, Dr. Thomas Mensah. So it is not for the lack of it, but it is for the lack of unifying our aim and purpose and focusing it on particular problems. Like we have mentioned, and we also have in our midst a logistics expert, you have touched on the logistics challenges. Now, I am going to go back to some of my speakers with Sammy Twitter. I am going to ask deliberate solutions to these challenges. He mentioned customs as a barrier. He mentioned port congestion. He mentioned the challenge of volume versus